Your website is the mousetrap. Your content is the cheese. Welcome to Content Matters with Barry Feldman and Andy Crestodina.
If you're only blogging on your own website, you're doing it wrong.
Well, you'd be doing it more right by increasing your footprint, of course. And so this podcast is for bloggers. And I think bloggers like you and I that understand that you start off with a relatively small audience and your ambition is to grow it, try to get more exposure and reach and traffic and interaction by borrowing other people's audiences, and do that with guest blogging.
And that's why guest blogging matters. Exactly right. And that's our topic of the day. I am pleased to be having this conversation with Barry Feldman, my collaborator on the Content Matters podcast. My name is Andy Crestodina from Orbit Media. And our topic is guest blogging, so let's jump right in. You're a huge believer in this tactic. I've been doing this for years. I love guest blogging. I think it's just a great way to collaborate with others. You started to mention there, I guess there's you're borrowing the audience of others, so there's an obvious visibility benefit. Why don't you just give us a quick overview? What are the big benefits of guest blogging, Barry?
Well, first and foremost is the expansion of your audience, right? If you suddenly find yourself on the Huffington Post or the New York Times, and those are generic examples, I suppose, of publications that a lot of people read. So you have to think inside of your vertical, and therefore you're thinking inside, or you're thinking of publications that reach the people that you want to reach. But the answer, therein is pretty obvious. You are a media producer now. You're a publication, and so you're going to sort of accelerate the reach of the stuff you write or record or say or whatever it is that you publish by borrowing other people's audience. And there's always going to be somebody that has a bigger audience than you. And so guest blogging is how you do it. And you and I have been doing it for years. It's actually how we know each other, when you get right down to it.
That's true.
And so we'll look at it. Yeah, if you want me to expand, I can. I did this thing, and we'll share it when we share our post of this. I sent it to you via email, Andy, but it was kind of a last-minute thought. It was this web I created, a little image. And so follow me here for a second, everybody, because you won't be looking at the image until you see this in its finished form in terms of a podcast or a podcast show notes. But I drew this web where in the center is the idea of guest blogging on high authority websites, and the payoff would be getting ranked and then getting clients. But surrounding it is all these, the reason I called it a web is all these interrelated ideas that don't come in any specific order, and those are getting traffic, getting interviews, right? As a result of talking about something you're an authority in, people are going to want to talk to you more about it. Getting speaking gigs, kind of a variation of the same thing. Getting social shares, getting included in roundups, getting in referrals, and they all sort of interconnect in an unpredictable way to each other. So the benefits are, rather long and unpredictable and enormous. Well,
it's a tactic that falls in that category of influencer marketing because, as you said, exposure. There are people who have already very carefully and painstakingly built that audience that you want to borrow. Influencer marketing is the art and science of, in a considerate way, reaching out and borrowing the audience that an influencer has already gathered up for you. There's very specific social media benefits because you'll wake up in the morning when that post goes live and there'll be 100 new followers on your account, or a bunch of people are sharing it because they already have that audience, and that audience is now exposed to your content, mentioning you. And then there's a very specific SEO benefit, and this is a big reason why I first got attracted to guest blogging. It's a completely ethical, legitimate way to build the authority of your site, because why would someone link to you? Why would another website ever create a link to something that you created? Well, one of the obvious reasons is that you wrote that piece for that other site. So one of the ways to get more authority to your site, a higher ranking in general, increase the general likelihood that your site will rank for every phrase, is to find authority sites that have a high degree of relevance to you, lots of incoming links, high domain authority. Network with those editors, pitch a piece of content, collaborate with the editor until it's finally ready for prime time. When it gets posted, there would very naturally be at least one link from them to you in the author bio, and very well may be perfectly relevant ways to link to other content on your site, just in the body of the content of the article. So there's a search benefit, there's a social benefit, there's the direct exposure benefit, and networking, Barry. Like you said, that's how we met.
Now, when you say you rank, do you mean you as in your website ranks, or you personally rank?
No, your web. I mean, the only thing that ranks in Google is web pages. Websites don't rank. People don't rank.
But my question is, like, if I rank, and I often do for a term that that's in the headline of something I wrote for Copyblogger, my website doesn't rank. Copybloggers does.
Oh, okay. So this is an important topic, and it gets into this big belief I have in building hubs of content, hubs of interrelated content. So let's say I write an article about online networking. And I'm trying to rank for the phrase online networking guide. Well, I don't really have the authority to rank for that, maybe a competitive phrase. And as it turns out, I'm ranking at the bottom of page 1 or top of page 2, and it's not working out that well for me. I'm not really getting any traffic. I'm not doing a good enough job to getting authority to that. How do I get other sites to link to my article about online networking? Well, I can simply write an article for someone else on a related topic. Maybe a topic is influencer marketing. Maybe the topic is guest blogging. And that topic could, in a perfectly reasonable way, link back to my article about online networking. The editor would agree. Any normal person would agree that that's relevant to the topic. And then a link back to my article would be sensible in that guest post. So you can build links specifically to articles that you have that almost rank high. Link, nudge, nudge. Pretty soon that page on your site is ranking higher because you're building a hub of content around it, not just content on your site, but content on other sites, linking back to the center of the hub back on your site.
Yeah, so while it's a little tad confusing, we're talking about two search strategies that work at the same time. One is linking or backlinking or what have you, relevant links from authoritative websites. And then also the prospect of you helping another website rank where, the payoff is your byline and hopefully some attention comes your way, as a result of the author box and the links within. Right? You follow me?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to write a piece of content that ranks for a phrase and you don't have the authority, then you can write for a website that does have a high enough authority that you can rank. Your content will rank for that topic, just not on your website. So you can write and pitch. So in other words, I want to win the Indianapolis 500, but I'm driving a Honda. I can't win that race, but I can borrow someone's Formula One car or whatever the case. You get the idea. You can borrow the authority of a very powerful website and rank for a phrase, albeit on their site, simply by pitching content to them that's targeting that phrase.
That metaphor of yours, is getting more complicated, man. Now we're into model numbers or model types.
Yeah, we don't have to mix up the metaphors. So targeting publishers, pitching editors. Barry, get us into the tactics.
No. Let's back up because, just real quick. I got to back up because you've introduced SEO as you often do because you love it so much. And I think I want to cut the cord with the baggage that comes with guest blogging because 18 months or so, maybe it was 2 years ago, Google or the voice of Google, Matt Cutts, came in and said, "You shall not do guest blogging." And you and I know better. And that was a really misunderstood topic. So can you speak to our audience about that?
Sure. It was a post that Matt Cutts put on his personal site. I think it was like January of 2013. I don't know. Guest blogging fell from favor hard and fast, but recovered very quickly because it's just a normal thing to do. I mean, it's what content marketers do. They collaborate with each other. They pitch to each other. They submit. It's been around long before there were blogs. It's called a bylined article. So it quickly created a myth that was never really validated. There's only a few cases of sites that were specifically penalized around that time, sadly. There's nothing unethical or unsustainable about the SEO tactic I mentioned of guest blogging for the sake of link building. But it's still based on relationships. It's still based on quality. If you're doing it ethically, there is no downside or risk or any problem at all. It was an overreaction to that post from Matt Cutts years ago.
Yeah, I guess, it can and is part of the sphere, if you will. There's so many websites or publications. I mentioned Copyblogger, a great example of multi-author blogs. That's how they do it. Right. So promptly, once again, what was the question I was supposed to answer before I wanted to return to the Matt Cutts thing? You know
this tactic so well. I want you to tell us how to do it, how to pitch, how to build those relationships, how to target specific publishers. Barry, what's the right way to guest blog?
Monster subject, but it begins with locating or targeting the right blog, and so there's no shortage of those. Any idea, Andy, what the number of blogs are?
2 million posts published per day. I don't know how they could ever really count the total number because there's a lot of inactive blogs, but plenty.
Yeah. So you want to increase your audience, as we talked about many times before, and so you want to investigate where is the audience, where are the influential bloggers? They're often well known. They're often authors. As you tab them, they're often thought leaders or influencers. And so these are the blogs that you want to be within your vertical space or your niche. And so it starts there, and that would be a matter of some relatively carefully considered research, but it's certainly not difficult to do. Google even has a website. I don't think people use this as much as they probably should, but it's specifically about blogs. So you can begin there by searching Google Blogs. Mm-hmm. And then you can use trends, and you certainly can use BuzzSumo to look at the popularity of blogs based on social shares, or just look at the blogs themselves, and make your long list a short list, make it a realistic list. You probably wouldn't, if you're new to guest blogging, aim for the top rung, the most unreachable source. And so from there, make a short list and then begin the relationship building. And I think you've already brought this up that, you're coming at them blind and perhaps sometimes overly ambitious, and coming as a dreamer and a schemer. I mean, even in my humble blog, I get hit up multiple times each week poorly by people that want to get on my website. And so we'll talk some more, time allowing, about how to do it well. But first comes, which ones will help you, which ones will help them. This is a mutual exchange, of course, of value. And so when you approach somebody, it's not just, and if you want to make a cardinal sin mistake, hey, I'd like to have, be a contributor on your blog because of A, B, C, and D, and that list leaves out, you, the person that's being pitched. It's all about me, the pitcher. And so bad call, right? You want to come in and say, here's why I'm on your doorstep knocking. I think we have a good fit, and what I have to offer you is, and I think you should answer that question. What is it? I get this all the time. I want to write for your blog.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's insensitive. You didn't take the steps up front. And in fact, I did write an article called Online Networking Guide, and it actually does rank for the phrase Online Networking Guide. And if you search for that, you'll find the page that has 35 steps you can take before you ask for something. And what these people are missing is that relationship building piece before you pitch someone. Don't make your first pitch, your first email be, I wrote these 4 things. Would you like a post from here? I wrote 6 articles already. Do you want one of them? Those are just terrible. What it misses is the word guest. Think about this for a second. What you're asking to be is a guest. Now, normal etiquette applies online, offline. I mean, this is just, a guest should be sensitive. They should do things in the terms of their host. They shouldn't be pushy. They should leave a 6-pack of beer in the fridge when they go. This is a guest. Act like a guest. That's my advice to people that want to be a guest blogger. Just be considerate from pitch to promotion and the end. It's everything in between.
I think, answer the question, why is it a good idea to say yes? I read your blog. It seems like your readers like this stuff, but it's been a while since you touched on this topic. My credentials for writing to that topic are these things, and here's my idea. We haven't got to that yet, but, I think 2 things you might want to propose, maybe 3. 1 is what's your idea. 2, an expanded version of that is, here's an outline of what I'd like to write for you. Or 3, here's what I've written for you. That's a little risky. Here's what I've written for you. But, with that strategy in mind, you're probably thinking, well, if they don't buy it, somebody else will. But I don't like to do a lot of work when I'm, I mentioned this many times before now, because my blog's grown in popularity. I'm the target, and so we're turning the
you get pitched. Yeah.
I'm not the guest blogger. I don't like to do a lot of work and say, what have you written for? Who are you? What are you going to write about? Answer all those questions up front to make, to encourage me to say yes.
Well, make it a no-work proposition is another way to say this. Now, you want to be a guest blogger for somebody, which is, we see huge benefits in it. If you do it right, you've done your research, you've taken your time, you built a relationship, and you know what that blog needs. Now take a look at a guest blogger like Andrea Vahl or Christy Hines. These are regulars on Social Media Examiner. Now, Michael Stelzner has told me that Christy Hines' posts need almost no editing. Andrea's same thing. This is how they do it. They know the blog really well. Every one of those posts starts with 2 questions. Every one of those posts has an image every 600 pixels. Every one of those posts ends with a call to action. They know exactly the format. So when they pitch something to that rockstar blog with massive social search benefits, it gets accepted very quickly because they built the relationship and because they made it a no-work proposition for the editor.
Yeah, and how often do you think that the reverse is true, that they don't know the blog really well? It's far too often, and
Sure.
it's kind of shameful. I think even preceding that is forging a relationship with that editor. Basically there's a gatekeeper in guest blogging, and most of the times that person's job is managing editor or blog editor or something like that. Kind of depends on the size of the company, but generally speaking, if they're big, somebody's specific job is to recruit, vet, edit, and post this stuff. And so do they know you? You can certainly grease the skids by not just demonstrating that you understand who their audience is and what they like to publish, but already being involved in their social sphere, already commenting on their blog. Already, if they allow, links saying, "Oh, I wrote this would be relevant," or sharing their work,
That's right.
Writing about them. There's kind of a long list of ways you can do that. But yeah, if you come from out of the blue, so to speak, and say, "Hi, I'm your new guest blogger," you're definitely increasing your chances of rejection.
Right. And before we move on, is there really any difference between what we're talking about, guest blogging, and PR? I mean, this is digital PR. This is modern day PR. It's the same thing. A byline article, guest blogging, influencer marketing, digital PR. It's really all the same thing. What we're doing is borrowing someone else's audience and putting our content in front of that group that we want relevance with, by being sensitive to the gatekeeper for that audience, which in this case is the blog editor. But normal rules of etiquette and consideration apply.
Yeah, back up a step further, from PR and online marketing, or even just marketing. We want to buy from people we know, like, and trust. We're selling something when we're selling a guest blog. Do I know you? Do I like you? And do I trust you? Are pretty logical questions.
That's another great way to put it. It's pitching. You're pitching something, right? Whatever it is, you got to do it in the right way. Okay. Wow. This is, we both love this one. Maybe we'll come back to this topip later, but
part 2. Yeah, we did. Did we get to the mousetraps and cheese thing already?
It's time.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about killing it with your guest post, but, I guess that, that's a story about, writing for somebody else. So yeah, we'll tackle that one, subsequently.
We'll get to it. Okay. It's time for mousetraps and cheese. Look, this is the segment where Barry and I give our top tip. Tip number 1 is from Barry. It's going to be about content and traffic. And tip number 2 will be from me. It's about websites and conversions. That's why we say, Barry first said, if your website was the mousetrap, your content's the cheese. So Barry, start us off with a content, traffic, and cheese tip.
All right, here's a little cheese for us today. I think that, and I wrote this in a post that we'll share about how to do guest blogging, the benefits of guest blogging from a veteran guest blogger or something like that. So that's me. That's you. That post was sharing my experiences. One of the things I do, and I know editors love this, and I think, it's all about what editors love, especially for your first time. But you want to be invited back, and you want to not only, get the gig, you want to have a successful gig. And so when I approach editors, a lot of times, in addition to saying, here's my story idea, I also say, here's my SEO idea. And so I say, I have considered, your domain authority, your competition, a little bit of your backstory in terms of what you published recently, or in the grand scheme of forever, what you've always published. And I have this idea based on these keywords that will put us on page 1, and here's why. And talk about increasing the chances of getting a yes. That's certainly something they want to hear.
That's what I call leaving a 6-pack of beer in the fridge as a guest. You're leaving them a traffic magnet that will pay for itself over and over. The gift that Barry gave just keeps giving. That's fantastic. My normal conversion tips would be about getting visitors to take an action on a website, such as become a newsletter subscriber or become a lead. But I'm going to give a conversion tip for getting that blog editor to take that action and accept your tip, converting you from a random stranger into a guest blogger for some authority website. And my tip is to take the intermediate steps of collaboration that lead you to greater relevance. Step 1 is including a quote from them anywhere, from anything they wrote anywhere in your content, and then notifying them or mentioning them when you share the post. Level 2, asking them for a contributor quote when you're writing something and including them in your content in a considerate way, asking, hey, I just wrote something on this topic. Would you mind sending me a paragraph for me to include? They contributed a quote. That's the next level. Level 3 is going to be a deep dive interview where you really respect this person and you're going to send them a question. Barry, what's the best tactic for reaching out to editors? He's going to send me an answer. Thanks for that. I'm going to send him another question based on his answer. Start an email conversation with him that turns into a deep dive interview. And I basically just gave Barry a giant hug, or whoever that editor was, a giant hug by making a huge piece of high value content centered around their voice. Now I'm ready for step 4, which is actually pitching the guest post. I built that relationship, becoming gradually more visible with them over time, including them. And by the time I'm asking to write for their site, we've already collaborated a number of times.
Sweet. How to win friends and influence editors.
There's your headline. Barry, you're always writing headlines.
Yeah, but that's great. I mean, they're your friends, first, right? We know each other now. It's sort of our story all over again. Hey, before we say goodbye and talk about the next show, there is a new development. I've been reading lately as social media marketer that, if you're struggling with Facebook, as I do and a lot of people do, and then sometimes to the point where I don't even care anymore, you should try a Facebook group. And Facebook groups can be small but interesting and interactive. And so we've created one for our blog, or for our blabcast or podcast and all those things. And it's not where you're going to listen to us, although I guess I could put them there. That's another development. They're on SlideShare. But it's to interact, talk about past shows, future shows, considerations, and it's called Content Matters, as it should be. And on Facebook, all you got to do is it's a public group. I guess I have to approve people, but go to facebook.com/groups/Content Matters if you like what Andy and I are talking about. You want to be involved going forward, and join the conversation.
Yeah, ask us a question there. We'll answer it on the show, or suggest a topic, something we might cover. This aligns with a big trend, and a lot of people are saying now, social media, really a lot of the action is in the private groups more than the public groups. So it'll be fun to see the conversation there. And it's going to bring me back to Facebook, which I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook these days. But going back. So I think that's it. We keep this short. That was the latest episode of Content Matters. Barry, what are we talking about next time?
It's events and how those play into the content marketing realm.
It's gonna
Love this topic.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Okay, everyone. Talk to you then.